Hey guys, Evylyn here, how are you all doing? So today guys is going to be a 5.4 rogue guide, and we're going to be going over two specs, Assassination and Subtlety. The main reason we're not going over combat is because combat is really good in duels, but for arena I don't see it being too viable because it hasn't got the sustained burst that you need, especially for trees. So for the two specs, Assassination and Subtlety, I'm going to be going over the rotation, the macros, the stats, the gems, the glyphs, and what spec I use. So first up we're going to start off with the specs. Now the specs I use for both, as you guys can see, this is my Assassination Spec, and we're going to go for Subterfuge, which is the best choice for both trees, as you guys can see. We're going to go for Combat Readiness, Elusiveness, Shadow Step, Paralytic Poison, and Mark for Death. Now the reason we go for Paralytic Poison down here is because we're not going to be in stealth a lot as Assassination, so we're going to need to do as much stuns as we can outside of stealth, and Paralytic Poison is a good choice for this. Prayer in the Weak is really good for Subtlety, as you guys are going to see here, because of the simple fact that it increases the damage you do by 10% while in any sort of stun. The last tree, as you can see, Mark for Death, is used on both because it's a really good choice and it gives instant burst with Subtlety, and with Assassination it allows you to deploy your poisons a lot quicker at the very start of your burst. We're going to use Shadow Step for both because Shadow Step is really good. We're also going to use Elusiveness and Combat Readiness for both because it's just a no-brainer. These are both best ways to keep yourself alive. Okay, so next up we're going to go with the Glyphs. The Glyphs I'm using for both is pretty much the exact same, except for Assassination I'm using Cheap Shot, whereas for Subtlety I'm using Hemorrhaging Veins. Now I'm also using Glyph of Blind and Glyph of Garrote for both specs. Now the main reason I use Hemorrhaging Veins for Subtlety is the simple fact that having 25% increased damage at all times while applying hemorrhage is also a really good thing, because as a Subtlety you can't always be in stealth, so you need some sort of extra pressure while out of stealth, and this is a really good choice. Whereas Assassination, you're going to want to stun the target as much as you possibly can and make that vanishes worthwhile when you use them, because they're what you're going to be using for your killing blow. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about the gems. Now I use pretty much the exact same gemming setup for both specs, and the main reason being is Mastery is the bread and butter for both specs as Assassination or Subtlety, and Agility is the second best as well. Now you can stack a bit more Agility for Assassination if you really want to, simply for the fact that Dispatch and Envenom are going to do a hell of a lot more damage with more Agility. But it doesn't really matter, either way it's good both ways because Mastery is a really good stat. As you guys can see, I have almost 74% Mastery, but obviously you're going to want to have more than that. And basically the gems I want is here, because you guys can see for the blue gem I use Perfect Assassination Rogue Stone, which is 80 Agility and 80 PvP power for blue sockets. For red sockets I'm using 160 Agility, and for yellow sockets I'm using 80 Agility and 160 Mastery. I'm going to quickly scroll through my gems so you guys can see what gems I have in there. Next up we have the stats. You're going to want to have a 3% hit to be able to hit your targets, and then you're going to want to have at least 3% expertise as a Subtlety or Assassination Rogue. You don't need that much expertise as Assassination, simply for the fact that most of your damage is going to be through your poisons, and as Subtlety most of the time you're going to be behind your target. Now you're going to want to stack as much Mastery as you can, as heavy as you can, because Mastery is the bread and butter of all stats for us. Now the second stat after Mastery for Assassination is going to be Haste, and then Crit finally. So you're going to reforge as much Crit out as you can of your Assassination, but if you're Subtlety you're going to want to reforge as much Haste out as you can and go for Crit, because you don't get that much energy regen as a Subtlety Rogue. But you're going to want to hit as hard as you can with all of your attacks, because that's how Subtlety plays. The damage is all burst, whereas Assassination is all poisons. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about my macros. Now we're going to talk specifically about my focus macros. This is my focus 1, 2 and 3 macros, which is going to actually allow you to switch between targets in the arena, and allow you to use macros like Focus Kick, Focus Gorge or Focus Blind, and allow you to get the advantage really quickly without having to switch targets. The next macro is going to be my Kick macro, and all this does is cancels handle protection if you have it on you, so you're able to kick the target. I will also use Redirect if you have any combo points should you need it. Next one is my Meld Vanish macro. This is Night Elf Rogues only, but it's really good macro if you're Night Elf to have. It allows you to have an extra vanish basically. Next macro is my Ambush and Cheap Shot macro. And basically these are just normal ambush and cheap shots, but it does allow you to use Premeditation on the target should you need the extra combo points during a match, like we're actually having to remember to use them. The next macro is my exposed armor macro, and what this does basically, if you are spec for this glyph here, stealth, it gives you 4 seconds of stealth, which gives you 2 seconds stealth. So if you press this macro twice while you sap somebody, it will then give you 2 combo points for having attacked them. You can then re-stealth, sap them again, and then you can use Premeditation and have 4 combo points if you're subtly spec. Next macro I have is my focus blind macro, and all this does is if you put a target on a focus here, and you're say targeting this guy, but you press the button, it will focus blind that guy over there, as you guys saw. Next macro is my focus disarm, and all that does is if you're targeting this guy with this guy focused, it will disarm him, but as you guys can see it says it doesn't have targets and have weapons equipped because it's a dummy. The next macro is my focus kick macro. So let's say this guy over here to the left is the healer, he's on your focus, you're attacking this guy, you want to quickly interrupt the healer, just go kick and straight back on this guy over here. The next macro I like my ambush and cheap shot, also use Premeditation on Garrote, which is a really good handy thing to have. The next macro is my focus gorge macro, and all that will do is if you have this guy set to focus and you're attacking this guy, and all you have to do is press this little button here, and it will gorge that guy over here as you guys saw, and you can still continue to attack this guy here. The next macro is a macro that Sentis actually has, and I think Subtlety app has it as well. It's a basically one for all burst macro, and all it will do is if you press this button a couple of times every time, it will just basically nuke somebody down in seconds. I prefer personally not to use this macro, but I have it just there just for the fun of it. The next macro is my recuperate macro, and what this will do is it will use life spirit if you're an alchemist, which I am. It will use health stone if you have one, and it will use recuperate. Now this is always a good thing to have, just simply because you might be in an arena and you might be partnered with a warlock, say for RLS, and you might want to use the health stone. The next macros are my sap macros. This sap macro here will target the nearest enemy, and it basically allows you to toggle between it and sap. I don't prefer to use this, it's more for PvE than anything else. This macro here though is actually my sap macro for PvP, and this will target the nearest enemy player, and which will basically allow you to not have to sap pets or any stuff like that. It will automatically just sap the nearest target to you, which is a really good macro to have. I also have on the right hand side here just normal sap, just in case I need it. The next 2 macros are my Subtlety Shadowblades and my Assassination Shadowblades. Assassination Shadowblades just has Shadowblades in it and redirect, and the main reason is because I have all the rest of it in the Vendetta macro, which is my Vendetta macro, cast Vendetta, Trinket, Lifeblood and Mark for Death. This is a really good macro to have for bursting down targets. Just combine them both because you're not going to want to use them together as an Assassination Rope. Whereas Subtlety, it differs. I also have on Subtlety my Shadow Dance, which I'll show you guys in a sec. Here's my Shadow Dance macro, which has Shadow Dance, Premeditation, Shadow Dance and your Trinket. This is so you don't have to use Shadow Blades if you don't really want to. It's the same way with the Assassination one, you don't have to use your Shadow Blades if you don't want to. Now as for the Subtlety Shadow Blades macro, it's going to include Shadow Blades, Shadow Dance if you want to pop it all together, Tyrannical your Trinket, Lifeblood if you're an alchemist. You can add a potion in there as well if you want, and it will cast and redirect any combo point you have on a different target to the target you're about to burst. Now this is a really good macro to have, I quite like it. My next macro is my Tricks macro, and this will basically, so it will target your target you have in your tricks. So basically you just put your DPS partner in here. If you're partner with healer then you won't be using this macro, but if you're not, just put your partner in there, cast tricks to the trade and target your last target. This will basically allow you to keep your target while casting tricks to the trade on the target. And there you guys that's it for my macros. Next up we're going to go with the Subtlety and Assassination Rotation. Okay, so guys, all the macros should be in the description for your convenience if you guys want to check that out. So next we're going to talk about and finally the rotation for Subtlety and Assassination Rogues. We're going to go over the non-burst and burst rotation for both. So first up we're going to talk about the Subtlety non-burst rotation. The Subtlety non-burst rotation out of Shadow Dance and Shadow Blades is going to be Premeditation, Slice and Dice, then you're going to want to garrote the target, you're going to cheap shot, ambush, and then when you come out of stealth you're going to want to hemo to 5 combo points. Once you hit 5 combo points you're going to rupture the target, then you're going to hemo again for 5 combo points, and then you're going to kidney shot, then you're going to backstab and hemo depending how much energy you have for 5 combo points, and then you're going to use eviscerate. This is going to be the rotation for non-burst, and I'm going to show you guys really quickly as I do it. So we're going to go out, start up in stealth, premeditation, slice and dice, garrote, cheap shot, ambush. I'm going to rupture, then we're going to hemo for 5 combo points. I'm going to quickly kidney shot, backstab a couple of times, maybe get a couple of hemos in there, and eviscerate. That's pretty decent down to damage, as you guys saw, 1.2 mil, which is almost 50k DPS, which isn't too bad for non-burst rotation. Okay, so next up we're going to have the burst rotation for Subtlety rogues, and it's going to consist of the same as normal rotation. You're going to start with Premeditation, slice and dice, then you're going to grab the target, wait the 3 seconds, then you're going to use cheap shot, pop all your CDs, ambush for 5 combo points, eviscerate, ambush for 5 combo points, eviscerate. If the target is still not stunned, then you can cheap shot. If the target is stunned, then you can use mark for death, eviscerate. Now it's up to you whether you want to interrupt heals, etc. and stuff like that. But that's the basic rotation, and I'm going to show you guys the rotation in full swing right now. So we're going to go stealth, the premeditation, slice and dice, then we're going to use garrote, wait the 3 seconds, cheap shot, pop all CDs, ambush, eviscerate, ambush, ambush, eviscerate, mark for death, eviscerate. As you guys can see, almost 1.5 million damage in the space of like literally 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to show you this burst rotation on a player. It's a friend of mine, his name is Eldu. He has a YouTube channel called Eldu Craft. He's going to be my dummy for this rotation. He's also going to be the dummy for the Assassination Rotation. Okay, so roll the clip and check it out, guys. As you guys saw, that was some pretty sick damage. I'm not gonna lie, that was some pretty sick damage. Next up we're gonna have the Assassination Rotation. So let me just quickly switch to Assassination Spec. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the Assassination non-burst rotation. And for this rotation you're gonna want to use cheap shot, then you want to grab the target, you're gonna ambush, then you're gonna rupture the target, then you're gonna use mutilate, you're gonna use slice and dice, then you're gonna use mutilate and venom. And that's pretty much it. Then you're going to want to use any kidney shots or anything you can get in there, any gorges or mutilates. The idea is to try to keep up slice and dice and rupture on the target at all times, so you do enough damage to the target, because rupture is going to make you, every time it does a certain amount of damage, it's going to give you 10 energy every so often, so it's worth keeping on the target. And slice and dice is worth keeping up simply for the fact that it's going to apply your poison a lot quicker, which in the end of the turn is going to do a lot more damage for you. So let's start off with the rotation. You're going to go in straight away, you're going to use cheap shot, garrote, ambush, rupture, and use mutilate. You got 4 or 5 combo points, and you're using venom. You can maybe use any dispatch procs you get. Just nuke the target as hard as you can. Use any cheap shots you want as well if you need to, just to stun them for the extra damage. This next we're going to talk about the Assassination Burst Rotation. Now what you're going to do is you're going to garrote the target, slice and dice, move away from the target that may break you from stealth. If it's not going to break you, then it's okay. Then you're going to use cheap shot, and then you're going to pop all of your CDs with Shadowmeld, and then use Vendetta straight afterwards. Mark for that, then Venom. And the main reason you're going to use Venom is because it's going to apply your poison a lot more quickly and get that paralytic poison off just before your cheap shot drops off. Once the paralytic poison comes, you can use mutilate, and venom. Then use mutilate, kidney shot. Then you're going to spam dispatch till you get 5 combo points, and then venom straight away again. That's pretty much the rotation. Chances are they'll be dead before you actually get the venom off, but if they manage to survive, the venom should finish the kill for you. Okay, so I'm going to show you the rotation in full swing here, guys. So I'm going to use garrote, wait a few seconds, cheap shot, pop CDs, venom, mutilate, venom, mutilate, kidney shot, dispatch spam. Now this doesn't really work too well in the dummies, So I'm actually going to show you me doing this rotation on a player, just simply for the fact that they aren't always on 35% health, and it's really silly and you can't stun them half the time. So yeah guys, watch this little video of me fighting Eldu again, and he's going to stand still and show you guys the rotation. Well, I don't think he has much choice because there's pretty much stuns all the way through this. So watch the stuns as the top guys as you see me doing the rotation. So as you guys can see, that rotation hits ridiculously hard. I think he was stunned for the full 12.5 seconds. It was pretty nasty. I mean, if you don't drink at that, you're pretty much dead. So I'm going to show you why each spec does the damage it does. Just remember for Assassination that you need to keep Slice and Dice up, and you also need to keep Rupture up. But the main reason that you need to do these is your Rupture also uses procs Venomous Wounds, which will generate 10 rage for you every time it procs, which is really good to have up. It also works on Garrote as well. And the other reason why it does a lot of damage is because Master Poisoner increases 5% more spell damage. The other reasons it does more damage is Assassin's Resolve increases your damage by 25% when you have daggers equipped, and Vendetta obviously increases damage taken by the target by an extra 30%, which all in all is 60%, which is 3% for Vendetta, 25% from Assassin's Resolve, and 5% from Master of Poisons. The same thing for Subtlety, just like Rupture. Instead you need to keep Slice and Dice up to keep your energy regeneration. Now, the main damage sources of Subtlety is going to be Master Poison, which increases spell damage taken by 5%, that's 5. Then you've also got Brain the Weak, which is going to increase it by another 10%, that's 15. And then you've got Singularity Brain, which is going to increase it by another 25%, which is 40. And then you've also got Master Subtlety, which increases stealth damage 10%, so that's going to be altogether 50% more damage, which is pretty quite a lot. They also buffed ambush by 12%, so you're going to be hitting like a truck with ambush in Eviscerates, even though they did nerf Eviscerate. So yeah guys, that's my 5.4 guide for rogues in general. I didn't really cover combat in this guide because I didn't feel it necessary, because I prefer to go over specs I use in Arena. So yeah guys, this guide is really good. Now you do have to remember is, as Assassination, just before we finish up this guide, you can put Rupture on several targets to pull your energy for more energy increase on your targets. It's just simply for the fact that if you have Rupture on 3 targets, you're going to be getting 30 energy every time you get the damage, not 10. So it's a good little trick to have in any sort of situations. Anyways guys, this is Evy out. I love you all. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.